Hello, and welcome back to the Health and Harmony Goals podcast. So, we've been alluding to this little juicy bonus episode in the self-care series, and here it is.
Welcome.
So, it's so funny actually because we found a lot of our inspiration for our podcasts on Pinterest, and the self-care series obviously stemmed from a pin that we found that had all the categories that we've covered. But I was thinking the other day, I feel like it's missing something. And this is the episode where we're going to bring you that little something it's missing, where we dive a little bit into self-care when it comes to your own sexuality. So get ready for some juicy, juicy vibes.
This is the bonus episode, and I feel like it is greatly named. The bonus episode that has to do with your sexual self-care. And I know this episode is probably going to be uncomfortable for some people because maybe even most people, I think a lot of people in this day and age are either on the complete opposite side where they're so pro-sex and pro-sex talk and pro-healthy sex. And then you get people that are completely on the other side that are like never wanting to speak about the word or even mention the word sex. So if this is uncomfortable for you, today is time to get out of your comfort zone.
I think especially there's so much negative, like there's so many negative connotations around sex and your sexuality. And it stems a lot from patriarchy and religion, where they have infused a lot of shame and guilt around self-pleasure as well as consummating with a partner, or it doesn't have to be your partner. So this is a super important aspect, I think, to cover, because it's time that people stop being so embarrassed to speak about this taboo topic. I mean, we want to untaboo it, if that's even a word, because it's so important to have a healthy sexual relationship with yourself and with your partner or with whoever you land up sleeping with. Like we don't judge. So we
judgment-free zone.
So we just wanted to give a little tips on how you can start to develop a self-care practice that includes your sexuality as well.
I think this is probably going to be the biggest one everyone has to start working on.
And it's so funny because, I mean, as much as we speak about it as well, I still find myself in situations where I feel uncomfortable speaking about it. I mean, I had a live workshop last night, and one of the ladies asked questions about intimacy with your partner. And I found it so hard to say when you have sex with your husband. And I was like, why are you feeling so embarrassed to say this? Like everyone has sex. It's not like it's some weird thing that only like weird people do, you know, it's a part of life. It's what creates life. It's what gives us joy. It's also helps us connect to the divine. So
also, can you imagine being one of the only species on the planet that has sex for pleasure? Like, take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have to have sex and have a baby like all the rest of the species on Earth. So that's number one positive side.
That is a blessing for some of us, let's be honest. Cool. So we're going to dive in. So I just put a little write-up together that I'm going to read word for word because I thought it just sums up this topic so beautifully. And it said the word sexuality elicits a broad range of associations. For our sake here, sexuality sexuality means the life force that drives desire, specifically as it manifests as turn on in the body. Sexual self-care means understanding your likes, dislikes, and knowing that if those change, it's okay. Sexual self-care means that you keep checking in on these preferences. Sex is a basic human function. In other words, a healthy relationship with sex and our bodies is part of what makes us whole. I think that's so important because in order to be a whole human being and accept all parts of yourself, you need to accept parts of this that might feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I think the key to becoming more comfortable with certain aspects of yourself is to talk about it. So finding someone you can talk to, being comfortable with your partner enough to speak about it, even finding like a therapist or whatever it may be, if you do feel like you need to work on feeling comfortable or you have issues that you need to work through in order to feel comfortable around your sexuality. It's so important.
I think even just like everything else we always talk about, that I mean, you may not want to do this because of privacy reasons, but I also think it's important to maybe keep a journal if this is like something that you are starting out on your sexuality journey, and like we were saying, finding out your preferences, your likes and your dislikes. Sometimes it's nice to just write these things down. And as you grow and change, you see what things adapt from previous situations or how things change as you grow with your sexuality. So I think that's, something super important is to keep a journal, but you also don't have to keep a journal.
Can I start a sex journal?
Yeah, keep a sex journal.
And also, this is probably like one of the most uncomfortable topics to talk about, especially when it comes to self-pleasure, because there is so much like shame and guilt around masturbating, which shouldn't be, because if you think about it logically, how can you be fully pleasured by your partner if you don't know what it is that you like that like turns you on and gets you off? So that self-pleasure becomes so important, because you learn what you like, what you don't like, what works, what doesn't. And it'll enhance, I want to say enhance your performance, but enhance your pleasure when you do have sex with your partner. I was going to say some other word, but I was like, I'm going to say sex.
Yeah.
Because call it what it is.
Call it what it is. Also, I think it's so important if you are struggling to be alone in that space, how are you, if you cannot accept yourself in that space alone, able to completely just forget about everything when you are with your partner and able to fully be present in that moment? Because I know for a lot of people, especially women, because, and I will say that it's, I mean, even growing up, being at school, as soon as a girl kissed a boy, she's called all these like bad names. And we have been really stigmatized when it comes to sex and being a woman. So it's difficult to talk about these topics, and guys can so easily speak about their self-pleasure and their masturbation and all of that. And the minute a girl speaks about it, they deemed as dirty or gross. And it makes no sense, because as we said before, everybody is human beings and everyone needs sex as a part of their life. So whether it's with yourself or with a partner, you need sex.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important point that you brought up. Like, we can thank patriarchy again for that, that women are slut shamed and called whores or whatever it is if they sleep around. But when the shoe's on the other foot and men are sleeping around, it's like it's a cool thing to talk about. It's boast worthy. So I think it's time that we start to change that and just make it known that it's okay if you've had multiple sex partners, like as long as it was consensual, you were safe, and you enjoyed it. That's all that fucking matters.
Completely.
Yeah.
So I feel like the more women that are sex positive and have more sex knowledge, the easier it will be for all of us to move forward without this patriarchal thought about women and sex.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've got a few points that we want to cover. And the first one is that sexual self-care means understanding your likes, dislikes, and knowing that it's okay if those change. So this, I think, honestly starts with getting to know yourself better on a very deep level. Unintended. I'm gonna say. So, I mean, like I said, this is going to probably makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but really starting to have like self-pleasure moments where you focus solely on yourself. And for me, this is still something that I need to get into, and it's been something that's been playing on my mind for a while. And it sounds so weird. I really need to play with myself more, but I do, let's be honest. So there's a lot of people that I've actually been listening to that are experts in the field. And for me, I find this is such an important thing for you to do, is to just start to learn more about how you can have these moments with yourself. Because with anything, like if you don't know how to start or where to start, it can be very overwhelming and intimidating. So I'll actually try to put a few links in the show notes to some of the podcast episodes that I've listened to, but someone that I've found to have a lot of valuable information on this topic is a woman called Layla Martin, and she's incredible. She is like a sex and relationship coach. She has so many free resources that you can also find on her website. Hubby and I have also used a lot of her like date night guides, workshops, whatever you want to call them. And she really dives into how you can start to get to know yourself better. So I'm going to link that in the show notes. But I think the most important part of the whole thing is to actually, as with anything, like schedule time in and make it part of your routine. So whether it's on a Wednesday night because the kids are at the grandparents and hubby like has poker night with friends, or on a Saturday morning because the house is empty and you feel safe enough in this environment to be able to explore yourself. just making sure you find a time and a space where you do feel safe enough to dive into these types of practices is so important. And then using the knowledge that you can learn. I mean, we're not experts here, so we're not going to give out unsolicited advice, but once you do have a better understanding and have guides and tools and techniques that you can use in this like self-pleasure environment, start to practice them. I always preach, you can read as many books as you want, you can watch as many videos, you can do as many courses as you want, but until you actually put that into practice and do the things, you're never going to learn. So you can read all the self-pleasure books, you can learn all about it, but until you actually do it with yourself and figure out what you like, what you don't like, what turns you on, and also just connecting with yourself on that level allows you to feel more pleasure at the end of the day because you're more comfortable, you understand yourself better, and you know what you know where the goal is that you're going for.
Completely. And I feel like if you know what your likes and dislikes are, it becomes so much easier to almost, as we've mentioned previously, to date yourself. And like Rox said, put that time aside. And if it's a Wednesday or Sunday, whatever it is, you start this journey of being able to be on your own and knowing what works for you. And it will become easier for you also to reach the maximum amount of pleasure with your partner if you know what works for you. And I think if it's a rough place for you to start and you feel like you have to start right at the beginning, start with those little dates with yourself and you'll see what you like and what you don't like. And eventually you'll get to a point where you're like, okay, I know I like this, so maybe I should actually go to a sex shop and have like a little look around and see what would work for me. You know, if you're intimidated to go by yourself, go with a partner. If you don't have a partner, go with a friend. It can be probably so much fun and you will piss yourselves laughing, but it will also be beneficial to both of you.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to go completely on your own and you don't want anyone to know about it, pick one that's over 20 Ks away from your house. Have a little drive there. No one's going to recognize you. You can walk in, have a date with yourself, and then you get excited about the next date for next week because you bought yourself a gift. So,
and the nice thing with adult shops is that the person that's working there is not going to judge you.
No.
And they're going to be more than willing to give you advice. So it's actually a really good person you can go and talk to for like tips and tricks on like self-pleasuring tools.
If you can go into the underwear shop and ask them what bra size you are, that's what those people are there for in the adult shops. They can help you.
Yeah, I think it's the same as anything in life. Like the first time you buy tampons, it's so embarrassing, but then you're like, everyone bleeds, everyone needs a tampon. Like, why am I embarrassed?
Completely.
Another thing I wanted to say is this will be such a huge catalyst to improving your self-love. It's just incredible how much more you will be able to love and accept yourself when you are fully like embodying every part of you. So I think this is such a perfect bonus episode because it kind of pulls everything together. And it also just boosts every other aspect of your life because you're building that self-confidence within yourself and you're building that acceptance and self-worth and self-love within yourself by yourself.
And I think the kind of last point I really have about knowing your likes and dislikes is, like we were saying, about the point of it being okay if these things change. So know that doing this journey through your sexual self-care, you are going to like things at certain points, and then you will outgrow them and you will find other things that you like more. So just like everything else, know that it's okay. It is a journey. You will like things at the beginning and things will change. So your likes and dislikes will go up and go down. I mean, have you been the same person for the last ever many years you've been alive? No. So your preferences will change, just like your taste for food and your taste for your favorite type of drink. So,
and I think another huge reason why your likes and dislikes may change can also result from like operations and issues and trauma. Like let's say you have breast cancer and you have to have your nipples removed, and that might have been one of your like preferred pleasure zones. Like now that obviously is not available to you, and this is what makes this activity so important, because now you need to rediscover and find new ways that you can hit the spot again, but not through the tools that you now don't have access to. So that can be and also that can be another reason why your likes and dislikes will change. But just remember that it's not the end of the world. We've got lots of pleasure points, guys.
Completely. And this actually makes me think about, we have a podcast that we recorded with Erica, and she was also speaking all about things to do with sex. So if you guys want to have a listen to that, listen to that. But if, like Rox and I are talking about now, finding out your likes and your dislikes, if you are not at the stage where you are ready to start to play with yourself to find your likes and your dislikes, she touches on topics that you can, or categories that you can look through and test with yourself in those moments of silence, whether it be feathers or candles or wax, or there's different things that you can try where you can even just find where, like Rox was saying, your best pleasure zones are. I mean, you might find that you really love a feather on the armpit. Like it could be something completely out of what you ever thought, but play around with those things, candles, feathers, whatever the modem of pleasure is. Yes.
I love that you bring that up, because I think bringing your senses into sexuality is so important. And that means playing with all your senses. So touch, smell, sight, sound, all of these things can really enhance your sexual pleasure and your sexual experience. So like the Ricky Martin music video where she pours wax all over him. If that's your vibe, try that out.
It's that you love Ricky Martin.
Okay. So then the next point is that sexual self-care means communication. And this is so, so important, especially if you are in a relationship where this is something you want to start working on. Communication is so, so, so important. And we speak about communication in every aspect of your life. How is your partner going to know what you like and dislike if you don't tell him? How is he going to know what you feel comfortable with and don't feel comfortable with if you don't tell him? How is he going to know if you want to try a new position or a new technique or whatever it is if you don't tell him? So this is where communication becomes so important. And the better your communication is with your partner, the more comfortable you guys are going to feel together, the more easy it is to now explore all these new things that you do want to explore, because you've communicated and you have this deeper understanding and knowing of each other, and it just makes it a lot easier for you to now explore these new sexy avenues that you might want to try out with your partner.
Completely. And I feel like also with communication, like Rox was saying, if you don't speak to someone, like we say, if you don't tell someone how you feel about something, how are they going to know? And I can completely understand, we can both relate to the fact that trying to speak to someone about something to do with sex can be super, super uncomfortable. So find a time also that works best for you. Like, is it while you're busy having sex? Is that the best time to speak? Or is it like over a date night where you can sit and have a glass of wine and chat together? So think about those things and find the best time for you to be able to communicate with your partner so that you are able to be most comfortable together. And I mean, it's not to say that if you can't speak to your partner about sex, you shouldn't be together, because some people are just uncomfortable to speak about it. But in order to reach that place where you are both in such a good maximum pleasure zone, if you can call it that, you have to be able to communicate. You have to know what your partner likes. What does he or she find amazing? What do you find amazing? What makes you both feel the greatest? And then you can incorporate that both into your sex life, and it will make everything so much better. So communication is 100% key in your normal relationship, but especially in your relationship with sex when it comes to your partner.
Definitely. And on that topic of like finding a time and place to speak to your partner, I would highly recommend that if this is something new to you and your partner, to not bring it up in the bedroom during the act of sex, because it's a very like prime triggering moment. Like if you bring up with your partner that you want to try something, or that this isn't working for you, but you haven't spoken to them about this journey that you want to take, they could take that as
offense.
Take offense to that, and it can just create more issues in your relationship. So if you're starting on this journey and you want to be more open with your partner about sex and the things you want to try or the things you want to stop or whatever it may be, don't start in the bedroom in the middle of the act, because that is probably just a good recipe for a blow up and not a good one.
Or no blow up.
So like a date night or sitting over dinner, like it doesn't have to be a formal environment, but just approach your partner and start to speak about the idea of this idea, and then maybe set a date night where you can speak more about it, and then set another date night where you can try out things you want to try, and just evolve like that.
And I think also, I mean, this is something that I've never tried before, but I really have always wanted to, there are so many practices, and I see it always on TV shows. And I know it sounds ridiculous saying I see it on TV shows, but obviously it happens everywhere. A lot of people that are uncomfortable with their partner or are not able to speak about things yet and are still trying to build that sexual connection or trying to work through things like that. A lot of people go and do tantric yoga, and it's very touchy-feely with your partner, but it's all very like sexual type of yoga positions, but it builds the connection also through energy. So if you are uncomfortable to like sit and talk, book a date night where you go and do tantric yoga. You guys literally don't even have to talk. It will just be a connection that you can build from there. So if that's something that you're into, it might make you piss yourself laughing, or you might be someone that's more serious and is like, you know what, that's something I really want to do. So start small, start with whatever works for you. And then you can always have those communication talks after that.
I love that you bring that up, because it can be such an uncomfortable thing to like bring up with your partner and start practicing. So finding someone who can facilitate that becomes such a powerful thing, because you are being guided. Like, it's one thing to like see something on the internet and be like, we're going to try this tonight. And then it's another thing actually doing it. Especially if you both feel, you're going to feel uncomfortable in the beginning, because this is something that we don't normally do. But the aim is to feel comfortable. So if you can find, like B said, a tantric yoga night or like a couples retreat or whatever it may be, where there's someone facilitating you and giving you the tools and guiding you through it the first few times, that can really get you comfortable with the whole situation and give you the tools that you need to be able to take it home with you and practice then without someone else.
And I think it's also important to remember that these people are professionals. Like, this is what they are meant to do. So yes, you may feel uncomfortable, but this is literally what they spend their days doing. They listen to people that talk about sex and to talk about these things. And like Rock said, I think it's really important that if it is uncomfortable for you, you have that type of mediator, so that there is no miscommunication of, oh, but you said this or you said this, and it gets a bit uncomfortable. Like, you have someone to be able to relay the information and be like, maybe let's take an approach that's like this, and then it's not so uncomfortable for everyone.
Love that. Okay. Then the third point is that sexual self-care takes patience. And I mean, this goes with anything in life. Nothing's going to happen overnight. And we spoke about this in the spiritual, I think it was the spiritual self-care, where we were saying like, people try meditating once and it doesn't work and they're like, I'm done. Like, everything takes patience, everything takes practice, everything takes consistency and perseverance. So if it's hella awkward and you just feel like so squeamish the first time, at least you've overcome that first like speed bump. Then try it again. You'll probably feel that you feel more comfortable. And in keeping trying and keeping practicing these kinds of things, you keep learning, which means you're going to keep evolving and keep figuring out what it is that works and what doesn't.
And I think the most important thing for me when it comes to this and patience is that you have to remember it's almost like a vicious cycle, right? Where you don't have the patience with yourself because you're not reaching the points where you need to reach, and you don't really know what works for you. So you're in your head the entire time. And then because you're in your head the entire time, you don't reach your maximum amount of pleasure. So it just becomes this vicious circle where if you take the time to just sit back and be patient with yourself and go, you know what? I'm learning myself just as much as anyone else needs to learn me. And I need to see what works for me and what doesn't work for me. But the more I sit and go, I can't do this, I can't do this, it's just like anything else we talk about in all of our podcasts. If you say you can't do it, you probably won't be able to. So you need to be able to be the one who catches yourself out and to think about other things. And I get into my head sometimes so much, and I feel like I'm like, what is going on? I literally cannot bring myself back to the moment. If it's counting for you, if it's breath, for me, it's focusing on my breath. I literally say in as I breathe in and out as I breathe out, to take thoughts out of my mind. So find what works for you, but make sure that you can be fully present in your moments and have the patience with yourself to be able to get there, and know that it will be a journey. Some people it takes one day, and some people it will take 3 years. So have the patience with yourself and just know that there will be a stage where you are able to know yourself fully.
Yeah. And I think as you're saying this wasn't a point we had put down, but just remember to have fun. I think a lot of us, like B said, we get stuck in our head and we overthink things and we make everything more of a chore than anything else. And we forget to have fun. And I mean, the whole point of sex is to have fun, right? It's pleasure, it's desire, it's passion, it's excitement. So if you are continuously putting pressure on yourself and forgetting that you should be having fun the whole time, you're literally going to lose that element of enjoyment because you're not having fun anymore. Okay, we had to go fetch the babe.
Like if you hear drinking in the background, it's not us.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just so important to like keep the aspect of fun in literally everything that you do, but especially in like connecting with your partner, connecting with yourself, and in sex in general, because like I said, the whole point of having sex is for pleasure, for passion, for fun.
I think that's the thing. Of course, there is an end goal when it comes to sex, and that is pleasure. But it's important to remember that the whole experience should be pleasureful.
And it's also to...
Sorry, checkers.
Okay, hold on one, guys. Okay, we're back again. All the interruptions.
One of those.
I was also going to say, also remember that another huge like point of having sex with your partner is connection. So even if you don't reach the peak of pleasure, like just having that connection with your partner is so, so important. So remember to have fun and to remember that it's all about connection.
I feel like if you're connecting with your partner, that's also the goal.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's not just pleasure, it's also connection. So every time you do have sex with your partner and you are able to like open up a little more, you will connect stronger and stronger every single time. And that will allow you to hopefully be able to have pleasure.
Yes, definitely. And not just in a sexual way, like in a relationship way. Like the ultimate goal of a relationship is to be so bonded in every aspect of your life. And I think that's where it goes back to communication again, is being able to communicate your fears, your desires, your goals, your aspirations, your plans, whatever it may be. Like a perfect partnership, and I'm not saying that anyone has a perfect partnership, but the closest you can get to a perfect partnership, I believe, is having that open communication about everything, about, like I said, your fears, your goals, being able to speak about your relationship, about your future, about your past. That is something that a lot of partners do not talk about. But in being able to be comfortable enough with your partner to speak about literally anything, it'll also like flow over into your bedroom activities, because you are just in complete comfort with this person.
I love that you brought that up, because it's so true. I mean, we are focusing in this podcast on the sexual side of things, but you won't be able to take care of yourself sexually if you're not being fully open with your partner. And I think to be able to, or to want to be able to reach your maximum amount of pleasure with your partner, but also you are in a relationship with someone who you can't even sit down and chat at the end of the day, like you probably aren't going to be able to get to that point, because there's other areas of your relationship that you have to work on first.
Yes. Yeah. So as much as we're talking about the sex side of things in your relationship and with yourself, I think it's so important to try bring that through into everything else, with the communication, the openness, the vulnerability, and the honesty. I mean, those I think should be core pillars of any relationship, to be honest.
And I think each relationship to their own, but it's so important to remember that, like Rox is saying, to speak about your past and to speak about your goals for the future. Those are all things that are important to speak about. And you will get people that say, you know what, I don't think we need to speak about the past, like the past is in the past. Yes, 100%, the past is in the past, but it's so important that your partner accepts your past for what it is, and accepts that that's what has happened in your life and things that you've gone through and things that you've done. So it is very important. I'm not saying that your partner is wrong for you if they don't accept your past, but the past, like we always say, is something you are unable to change. So if your partner is going to be upset with you about your past, guess what? It ain't going to change. So
that's the truth.
Yeah, there's literally nothing you can do to change it. So.
Yeah. And I think also, if your partner does fully accept you and your past, and you've been able to speak about it, it brings you that much closer together, because you feel 100% comfortable with that person, because they know every inch of you, your good parts, your bad parts, your terrible parts,
the parts that are a little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
It's still okay.
Yeah. Listen, we all have those parts of us, so it's nothing to be ashamed of. 100%. I think it's just the beauty in being able to accept each other and move on from that, and fully love and embrace and accept each other for who we are in this moment going forward. Okay, so we put down 4 keys to sexual self-care, which we're just going to go over, because obviously we've touched on a few of these in what we've said up until this point. But we're just going to go through them anyway. And the first key is to identify inner and outer resources for comfort and safety. And like I said in the beginning, it is so important to feel comfortable and safe in the environment where you're either going to practice self-pleasure or pleasure with your partner. So obviously I said inner and external. So I want to just touch on some of the external factors that you can put into play.
Sorry guys, Bella's sick. She's got like a phlegmy chest and she's drinking at the same time. So if you can concentrate on what we're saying over her, you win a prize.
Okay, so external resources may start with the recognition that you're currently safe. And ways that you can do this is to maybe make sure that your door is locked. This can really help with a sense of safety and security, especially like in a self-pleasure environment where you really do not want anyone to walk in on you having a good time with yourself. So that's a good tip. It can be nice to set a timer if you're someone who's on a tight schedule or whatever it may be. Setting a timer can be a really good way to keep you in the moment, keep you out of your head, not worrying about, oh my gosh, I still have to reply to 100 emails and Sally's coming over for coffee at 12. I need to make sure that I get this done before then. To take your mind off those types of thoughts, set a timer so you know that when the timer goes off, that's your time up. Sorry if you didn't get to the peak performance there, but at least your mind's at ease throughout the whole process. And then also, like we were saying, using your 5 senses, really bring this into play, whether it's for a self-pleasure activity or with your partner. So ways you can do this is with blankets. You can put art up that like inspires passion or creativity or sexuality. Essential oils is an incredible tool because it brings in the sense of touch and smell. Candles, Ricky Martin baby, and you don't have to pour the wax on yourself. That's optional extra. Body oils, sexy lingerie, like whatever it is that's going to center you and bring you into this moment of passion and feeling safe in your space.
And I think also when it comes to feeling safe, what's also important to realize is that just like with everything else, what works for you might not work for someone else. So I was just thinking of an example now where I'm like we were talking about locking the door. For some people, it's so important to feel safe, or your important thing that you have to do in order to feel safe is to be completely alone. Like the kids are out, the parents are out, whatever your situation is, and you're completely on your own. That's what works for some people. Then you get other people who thrive off having sex in public places. So those are two just completely contrasted examples of how different things are pleasureful, if that's even a word, for different people. So just because something works for you or something works for your friend doesn't mean it's going to work for either one of you. So just remember that. And like Rox was saying with essential oils and everything, some person's going to love essential oils, pour all over their body, and the other person is going to vomit at the smell of essential oils. So literally find what works for you and whatever makes you feel safe.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. That's such a point. Such a good point.
Such a point.
And then internal types of resources that can bring you a sense of comfort and safety are feeling into the senses of your own body. And I think this is such a good way to bring you back into the present moment, because that's what your senses do. And you can do that like we spoke about, the feathers, or I don't know, a vibrator, whatever it may be that brings you that like internal sense of comfort and safety. Start using those. And then another way to get you in the zone, I love all these puns, before you begin a practice, is to say affirmations, ones that are going to make you feel safe, make you feel grounded, make you feel comfortable, and make you feel comfortable with this practice you're about to embark on. So there were a few here that I really loved, and I'm just going to read them. You can repeat them to yourself now, or if you want, when you do this activity, fast forward to this part. But they are: my sexuality is lovable and I have nothing to hide. I love that one. Connecting to my sexuality is an ongoing journey where I cannot be measured in terms of normal or broken. So important. My sexuality is at its fullest potential when I am aware of how it has been wounded, have compassion for myself, and get help as needed. That's a goodie. I like that one. I feel like these are also just life tips. Connecting to my sexuality makes me healthier, more creative, and relatable. Preach. My sexual energy supports me to heal from old familiar wounds.
That one I love.
Preach. My sexuality is a part of me and a part of nature. No matter how deeply it has been harmed, it can be healed and recreated. My sexuality can work in complementary collaboration with every other aspect of my system. So if affirmations are your vibe, that is a cool one that you can do.
Affirmations should be your vibe, so make them your vibe.
But really just
I'm sorry.
Finding inner and outer resources for comfort and safety, I think, is the first key to starting this kind of a practice, because you're not going to have any success if you're feeling not safe and not comfortable during the practice. Then commit to your sexuality. And I mean, we've spoken about this already, and we've spoken about it a million times before, but you're never going to get better at anything unless you commit to something with a little bit of consistency. So like I said, organize a date night with yourself or with your partner, depending on what situation you're in, and really just starting to explore these types of things. Learn,
commit to the process,
put it in practice. Because you're not ever going to get anywhere if you don't commit to actually doing the work. So good ways that you can start to commit to this type of a practice or yourself. Sorry, we've got Bella in the background again. You'll have to just get used to this, guy. Is to make or set a time every day where you just check in with yourself and commit to like getting to know yourself a little bit better. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go now and like masturbate away every single day, but really just checking in with yourself and being like, how do I feel today? How am I feeling about my sexuality? What kind of things can I do to connect myself more with it? It's just a good way to create that kind of a commitment. And then this time it could also include things like journaling, meditation, obviously self-pleasure, breath work, education, or anything else that supports your growth in this area. So commitment is so, so important. And then again, giving yourself permission and presence. We've already touched on this, but just remember, giving yourself permission can be so empowering, because a lot of the times we do things and we feel like we haven't even given ourselves permission, if that even makes sense. But like with anything in life, as soon as someone says, cool, do it, go ahead, you feel like that sense of relief, and it makes actually doing the thing a lot easier. And that helps with you being more present again, because you're not constantly in your head being like, I shouldn't be doing this. This is something to be shameful of. This is something that I'm wasting my time on because I could be doing something else more important. So, and none of those reasons are actually right, guys. Your sexuality and yourself is the most important thing to you in your life. But yeah, just being present in the moment really will be so transformational, because you are actually putting yourself in the moment and doing the work in the moment. You're not constantly distracted by other thoughts and other things.
And you 100% will never be able to experience pleasure if you don't give yourself permission. That's like a very important point to make. So you have to be the one that's giving yourself permission in that environment.
And if giving yourself permission is something that you find impossible to do, then maybe it is worth finding a therapist or a specialist in this type of thing that you can speak to, because there's obviously some kind of resistance within you, whether it's trauma, past memories, limiting beliefs, conditioning that's holding you back. And this person can facilitate a healing process for you, where eventually you will be able to feel comfortable enough and empowered enough to give yourself permission. And then the last one is to share your discoveries. And I mean, this obviously goes back to communication, but there's so much power in like chatting to your bestie about something you tried with your partner last night and it rocked your world, or really made you feel uncomfortable and did not work, because you can learn so much from sharing with people in your life. So I think sharing your journey, whether it's with a journal, if you're too uncomfortable to speak with someone else, with a therapist, with a friend, on a podcast like we are, is just so empowering in itself and such a good way to learn even more, because in sharing your experiences, you learn from someone else what worked for them, what didn't, what they experienced, what they learned. And you can share with them what you learned, what you experienced, what worked and didn't work. And it's just like, just kind of catapults your journey to discovering more in this realm of sexuality.
And I think literally, as much as it's so important to share your journey so that you can learn together with people, don't forget to share the information with your partner, because I think a lot of people are they get to the point where they found something that works for them and they were like, wow, you know, that was amazing last night, but you don't actually say to your partner, this specific thing that you did, I really enjoyed, you know, you just say that was great and cool. Yeah, the overall experience was probably great, but what was it that made you feel so great? Like, share that with your partner so that your partner is able to know. And I think, yeah, just be able to share the information with your partner and like with your friends, or like Rox says, with the journal.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because again, how's your partner going to know like which specific part of your sexual experience that you had that night or whenever it was you really enjoyed? He's gonna just be like, okay, well, what was it that I did?
Yeah,
and it's gonna put him
the whole thing was great. I'm just fabulous.
Or it's gonna actually put him under pressure, because the next time it's like, fuck, I don't actually know what it was that like she really liked about that last time.
Yeah.
So that communication can really just help catapult the next experience, because your partner's like, I know she really liked it when I did this one thing, so I'm going to do that again.
Yes.
So that concludes our little juicy bonus episode. I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed it and took something away. And this also concludes our self-care series.
Oh my word, it's finito.
It's been a journey, and I've really actually enjoyed it, because I think as much as we share stuff with you, we learn so much researching and sharing with you guys.
And let's be honest, we just love to chat in general.
Yeah.
So it's always lovely chatting with you guys in the future when we record, but we also love to sit and chat. So thank you for being the ones who listen.
Yes, and as this journey ends, we are beginning an exciting new one, and we'll talk more about it obviously in the next episode, but we are bringing on a shit ton of guests, guys. So get ready to get your mind blown, get ready to learn to the max, because obviously guests can bring more expertise than the two of us can together. And we are going to embark on a journey of having some incredibly powerful women guesting on our podcasts in all different, what's the word?
Aspects of life,
walks
of life.
Yeah, all different experiences, all different knowledge. So it's going to be incredible as well.
And we will, see you guys in that season.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening to our little self-care series.
We love you long, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Toodaloo.